Princess Anne, the quiet force within the royal family, has finally spoken up, and what she revealed may just change the monarchy forever. Picture this, a private retreat at Balmoral. The royal family gathered in what should have been a peaceful, serene setting. But instead of calm, there was a confrontation. Anne, usually reserved and always playing her role with quiet dignity, stood up and looked directly at King Charles, declaring in no uncertain terms, "Enough is enough." In that moment, the air shifted. No one saw this coming. What was so powerful, so loaded, that it had the power to fracture the royal family from within. The things Anne revealed were not just personal grievances, they were political bombs set to explode. Secret deals, hidden files, and the silent, subtle rise of Camilla's influence over the years. It was as if Anne had unlocked a door that no one was supposed to see behind. And now, the truth is out. It wasn't just another bit of royal gossip. It was the story, the one the palace desperately wanted to keep hidden. Stick with us, because we're just scratching the surface. This is the real story, and trust me, it gets much, much deeper. Balmoral, the place meant for quiet reflection, became the stage for a royal reckoning. And always the loyal royal, the one who never rocked the boat, finally decided she had enough. There she stood, not just as a member of the royal family, but as a woman with something urgent to say. Surrounded by King Charles, Queen Camilla, and a few senior aides, Anne spoke with a clarity that was impossible to ignore. "I've held my tongue for too long," she said. "Enough is enough." The room went quiet. No one spoke, not Charles, not Camilla, not even the aides, who were there to keep the peace. Anne wasn't just expressing frustration. She was laying down a line in the sand. Her words were cold, sharp, and incredibly revealing. For years, she had watched the decisions being made. Without her input, titles handed out like bargaining chips, power quietly shifting, and a monarchy that no longer felt like the family she once knew. What was supposed to be a casual summer gathering turned into a full-blown reckoning. Anne wasn't just venting, she was calling for change, a shift in the way the royal family operated. She wasn't going to sit back and watch as Camilla's rise to power pushed everyone else aside. This wasn't just about Anne's personal frustrations anymore, it was about the future of the monarchy itself. Charles, usually the steady hand, sat with his head bowed. Camilla, the woman whose influence had been rising quietly over the years, remained eerily composed. But if you looked closely, her eyes told a different story. She was rattled. Anne wasn't throwing a tantrum. She wasn't breaking down. She was standing her ground, and in doing so, she shattered the illusion of royal peace. From that moment on, nothing was the same, and the truth, an unveiled dit, was bigger than anyone expected, bigger than anyone could have predicted. Turns out, even Queen Elizabeth had been swept up in the tangled web of secrets. The royal family was no longer what it once seemed to be. What Anne revealed that day didn't just expose the cracks in the monarchy, it opened a door that can't be closed. Stay with us, because the story is far from over. Queen Elizabeth II's approval of Camilla as queen consort during her Platinum Jubilee was a moment the world witnessed. But behind closed doors, the queen's true feelings were a different story. And Princess Anne, ever the quiet observer, was one of the few who heard it all. In the wake of the Balmoral showdown, Anne confided in two senior aides about the private conversations she had with the Queen during her final months. According to Anne, Her Majesty never truly wanted Camilla to be queen. Behind the calm public face, the Queen saw Camilla's ascension as a reluctant compromise, a decision born not from trust, but out of necessity. Anne recalled the Queen speaking plainly, saying that she believed Kate Middleton was the one who should carry the future of the crown. This wasn't about personal feelings, it was about legacy. The Queen had mentioned several times in private that Kate was the true face of the monarchy's future. But the weight of political pressure, family dynamics, and a public exhausted by scandal meant that the Queen felt cornered into giving Camilla her blessing, and referred to it as a deal made in the shadow of the Jubilee, one that Her Majesty never wanted to make, but felt she had no other choice. Now, with Camilla sitting on the throne, Anne feels that the choice is being misrepresented and manipulated. It was never supposed to look this way. During their confrontation at Balmoral, Anne reportedly told Charles, "You've turned a temporary pardon into a permanent crown." That statement was not just harsh, it was a painful truth that reopened the reality many feared was buried with the Queen, that the throne Camilla occupies might never have truly belonged to her. And if that's the case, then the journey to her title becomes even more murky, especially when you consider what Charles might have traded to secure it. This isn't just a story of love, it's one of leverage. Princess Anne dropped a bombshell that even seasoned palace insiders struggled to believe. According to Anne, Charles made a secret promise to the Queen during the height of the Andros scandal, a promise that involved Camilla securing the crown in exchange for Charles handling the situation with Prince Andrew. At the time, the royal family was in turmoil. The Epstein scandal had exploded, and Prince Andrew's reputation was in tatters. The monarchy's very reputation was on the brink of collapse, and Charles knew it. In the midst of this chaos, Camilla saw an opportunity. While the Queen hesitated to elevate her, Charles allegedly offered a solution. He would publicly handle the Andrew scandal, and in return, Camilla would ascend to the crown. What began as a temporary solution, a compromise in the face of a crisis, has now become a permanent reality. The deal Charles struck wasn't just a political maneuver. It was the catalyst for the royal shift we're witnessing today. The deal that set everything in motion wasn't just about Camilla becoming queen. Consortit was about securing her crown, and at a significant cost. Behind closed doors, there was an unspoken understanding. If Camilla were to be granted the crown, Charles had to make one major sacrifice. Prince Andrew's titles would be stripped, and he would be distanced permanently from the family. Deal wasn't formal, wasn't written down, but it was quietly agreed upon. One insider close to Anne described it simply, "Fix the scandal, and Camilla gets her crown." What Anne found most upsetting wasn't just the deal itself, it was the way it was handled. It wasn't about royal heritage or legacy. It was treated like a mere political transaction. According to reports, Anne was furious, telling Charles, "You traded one crisis for another. In doing so, you've made Camilla's crown a crown of compromise." To her, it wasn't about stability in the monarchy. It was about strategic survival, and that survival came at the cost of tradition. But Camilla didn't stop there. Her next move crossed a line, one that no royal should have ever touched, and Princess Anne wasn't about to let it go unnoticed. The title that caused a rift between the family wasn't just Camilla's crown, it was her push to have her own son, Tom Parker Bowles, granted a noble title that to Anne was the final straw. It wasn't just inappropriate, it was a direct violation of royal tradition. Royal blood earns titles, not royal marriages. Anne snapped during a tense family exchange. What was at first a subtle request, an honorary title for Tom, a way to recognize his role in the royal sphere, became a battle for Anne, who saw it as a blatant attempt to rewrite centuries of royal protocol. Titles were to be earned by blood or direct marriages, not by the whims of someone seeking recognition for their lineage. This led to a heated confrontation with raised voices and uncomfortable silences. Even Charles, caught between his sister, who never asks for anything, and his wife, who asked for more than anyone ever had, was reportedly uncomfortable. This wasn't just a family argument, it was a clash over the very identity of the crown. But the titles weren't the real issue. Anne began to uncover a deeper, more troubling shift in the monarchy. It wasn't just about titles, it was about influence, and what Anne revealed next raised an even more disturbing question. Is the king really ruling the monarchy, or is Camilla quietly manipulating him? According to Anne, Queen Camilla is no longer just a consort. She is the quiet power behind the throne. Recently, many had noticed a subtle shift in King Charles's tone. His speeches seemed less grounded in tradition, more focused on legacy and preserving the monarchy's image. Behind the scenes, Anne believes she knows why. During their confrontation at Balmoral, Anne accused Camilla of isolating Charles, particularly when it came to decisions about staff, messaging, and appointments, and alleged that Camilla had placed her own allies in high-level roles, communications directors, royal household advisors, even longtime event organizers, loyal to her vision, not necessarily the king's. She's turning him against his own blood, one insider reportedly whispered. He listens to her more than anyone else. Anne wasn't trying to be cruel. She was trying to wake Charles up to what she saw as the truth. This wasn't love, it was manipulation. "You've lost your judgment," she reportedly told him, "and you've let her rewrite our story." Charles, stunned, didn't respond, but the effects of the confrontation lingered. Even members of his inner circle have started to question his decisions. Some have noted that his speeches seem less grounded, his decisions more reactive, and his relationship with William increasingly distant. There's a growing, unspoken fear that Camilla isn't just influencing the future of the monarchy, she's reshaping it entirely. Princess Anne is far from giving up the fight. Not yet. What comes next is something that will send shockwaves. Through the royal family, involving a woman the firm has tried hardest to forget, and the files that Camilla allegedly buried to ensure she stayed forgotten Princess Diana. The royal archives, usually a place where the monarchy's most sensitive history is preserved, has become a battleground. According to Anne, these archives are being manipulated specifically to protect Camilla. During the Balmoral confrontation, Anne revealed that she had been shown evidence that private correspondence between Princess Diana and senior royals had been deliberately withheld or reorganized. These weren't just ordinary letters. They were emotionally charged exchanges, including Diana's reactions to the relentless media pressure, her distrust of certain palisades, and, most damning of all, her concerns about Camilla's involvement. In royal affairs long before the public was ever aware of it, Anne didn't mince words. "This is not archiving," she reportedly said. "This is erasure of truth." Sources close to the situation claim that the documents were quietly moved, catalog numbers changed, descriptions altered, and access restricted even to senior royals. When Anne inquired about why this was happening, no one could provide a clear answer. But the implication was obvious: for Camilla's rise to be unchallenged, Diana's history had to be softened or buried altogether. One palace insider, speaking anonymously, confirmed the truth. It's no secret Camilla's team worked hard to clean up her public image, but hiding Diana's voice, that crosses a line. For Anne, this was the final straw. It wasn't just about rewriting the monarchy's future, it was about reshaping its past. If Diana's truth could be hidden, what else was being erased? Anne believes this wasn't just a one-off decision, it was part of a broader, more systematic effort to recast Camilla, not as the woman who broke royal protocol, but as the one who quietly inherited it. But no matter how many letters are sealed away, one thing remains undeniable: the shadow of Princess Diana hasn't faded. If anything, it's growing. And Anne isn't the only one feeling it. As history gets rewritten, old wounds are reopened, and Anne's distrust of Camilla goes back much further than anyone realized. Let's rewind to the 1970s. Before Diana even entered the picture, there's a royal rift that's been decades in the making, and to understand Anne's deep-rooted distrust of Camilla, you have to go back to a love triangle that many tabloids barely touched until now. In the early 1970s, Anne was romantically involved with Andrew Parker Bowles, a charming military man. Their relationship was quiet, discreet, and royal-approved, though unofficial. They were frequently seen together at polo matches and dinners, and the chemistry between them was undeniable. But then Camilla Shand entered the scene. She moved in the same social circles, attended the same events, and eventually became involved with Andrew Les. Within months, the dynamic shifted, and Anne's romance abruptly ended. Not long after, Camilla married Andrew. Just a few years later, she was secretly involved with Charles. It wasn't just personal betrayal, it was a pattern. First Andrew, then Charles, then the crown. Anne once told a friend, she takes what she shouldn't have, and that feeling never faded. While the rest of the family gradually accepted Camilla's presence, Anne never did. She remained publicly polite, but always formal, always guarded. There was never warmth. For Anne, it wasn't just about old heartbreak, it was about what Camilla represented, a woman who worked behind the scenes, played the long game, and used charm and connections to climb the royal ranks. For Anne, who had spent her life earning respect through duty and discipline, it felt like everything she stood for was being undone by one woman. Anne never forgot. She never forgave, said one royal aide. Camilla didn't just take her ex, she took her place in history, even when Camilla was crowned queen consort. Anne refused to bow to the queen's dismay. But what many didn't know was that Anne had the quiet support of one very powerful woman in that decision, Queen Elizabeth II. Let's go deeper. The royal family gathered for an event that had been decades in the making, the wedding of Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles. But behind the scenes, there was quiet tension. It all came down to a single moment, the curtsy. Tradition dictated that senior female royals must curtsy to the wife of the future king, especially once married. But that day, Princess Anne Dean observers thought it was just a personal protest. But the truth was far more significant. It was a private command from the Queen herself. According to two former courtiers, Queen Elizabeth made an unprecedented decision that day, one that would never be publicly acknowledged but spoke volumes about the deep, silent rebellion she had quietly supported in her own way. The decision was never written down, never formally announced. But everyone in the royal circle understood. Princess Anne and Princess Alexandra would not be required to curtsy to Camilla. The Queen, ever the astute observer of royal history and protocol, knew the situation all too well. She understood Anne's stance, and more importantly, she understood the optics of forcing a loyal daughter to bow to someone who had never truly earned her place. It wasn't just a small gesture, it was a powerful statement, a way of showing support. One aide recalled that it was the Queen's quiet way of saying, "I see you, I support you." Even at the height of Camilla's rise, Anne stood tall, and the Queen led her in that decision. Though seemingly small at the time, it now echoes louder than ever. As Camilla's reign faces growing challenges and public trust begins to shift, the symbolism of Anne's silent stand is being remembered. It wasn't just a refusal to curtsy, it was a refusal to surrender. Anne's defiance didn't stop there. As she pushed back harder than ever, royal watchers began to piece together what she had been resisting all along. Not just Camilla's power, but her image. And as it turns out, Anne isn't the only royal who's noticed the cracks beneath Camilla's crown. There's another who has been quietly keeping score, Kate Middleton. Behind the scenes, away from the cameras and public smiles, there's a rivalry brewing between Queen Camilla and Princess Katharina, competition to be the people's queen. While Camilla has fought tooth and nail to secure her place on the throne, Kate has earned hers effortlessly through quiet grace and unwavering public support. Even Queen Elizabeth reportedly said before her passing, "Catherine carries the spirit of the monarchy. Camilla carries its baggage." Insiders say that Camilla has never truly accepted Kate's popularity. At one point, she allegedly referred to her as a common girl playing dress-up. But Kate didn't rise through scandal, spin, or media manipulation. She rose through dignity. She didn't leak stories or demand titles. She earned them through loyalty and service, and the people took notice. Polls consistently show Kate as the most beloved royal after the late Queen. While Camilla remains a polarizing figure, and ever the realist has made her stance clear, Kate is the future. Camilla was a compromise. That quiet support, whether voiced or unspoken, matters now more than ever. With Kate battling illness and still holding her head high, and Camilla under increasing scrutiny, the comparison becomes even more stark. The monarchy may not say it publicly, but they know there's only room for one true queen in the public's heart. And as for William, his opinion of Camilla has never been a mystery. Behind the polite smiles and formal greetings, the relationship between Prince William and Queen Camilla has always been strained. According to Anne, this distance isn't just emotionally, it's rooted in betrayal, history, and deep mistrust. Years ago, long before Charles and Camilla married, both William and Harry pleaded with their father, "Please don't marry her." They remembered the whispers, the late-night calls, and the damage it did to their mother. While the world eventually accepted Camilla, William never truly did. According to Harry's memoir, William always viewed Camilla as a media manipulator who traded privacy for positive press, often at the expense of others. That hasn't changed. Camilla may wear the crown now, but William keeps his distance. In strategy meetings, they rarely sit side by side. At private events, there's minimal contact. He refers to her simply as Camilla. One royal source noted, he respects her position. He does not respect how she got there. With Anne voicing her long-held grievances and public opinion beginning to shift again. William sees an opportunity not to attack, but to protect the monarchy from repeating the mistakes of the past. If he is to be king one day, he knows the kind of queen who must stand beside him, someone who lives with transparency, compassion, and truth, not someone who leaves history in the shadows. And now, the battle for the crown's soul is no longer quiet. The next chapter might not be written by princes, but by a princess who's finally had enough. The affair that never ended, the royal love triangle that still holds sway over the present, it all comes back to one woman, Princess Anne. Her long-standing bond with Andrew Parker Bowles, Camilla's ex-husband, could hold more significance than anyone imagined. The story began in the early 1970s, when Anne and Andrew were young and often seen together at military parades and polo matches. Though their relationship was never officially confirmed, it was an open secret among insiders. Then came Camilla, stepping into the same circles, quickly growing close to Andrew. In 1973, she married him. Many believed this would end the love triangle, but it didn't. Even after Camilla married Andrew and later became involved with Charles, the history didn't fade, and Anne never forgot. Princess Anne has always remained steadfast, quiet in her loyalty to the monarchy. But there's a deeper, more personal layer to her relationship with Andrew Parker Bowles. Their bond wasn't just that of former lovers, it endured beyond romance, lasting in the form of trust and connection. Anne made him godfather to her daughter, Zara, a role traditionally reserved for only the closest members of the royal inner circle. Over the years, their connection remained steady letters, shared lunches, attending events together when Anne needed someone to confide in. Andrew was often the first person she turned to, but as royal aides whispered in the lead-up to Charles and Camilla's wedding in 2005, many began to notice that Camilla had taken more than just a title. She had taken Anne's place in history, the man Anne never fully let go of. Anne's rivalry with Camilla had become both personal and political, simmering quietly in the background. Anne kept her silence, but with the monarchy facing internal unrest, she has finally brought everything to light. The betrayal, the tension, and the deep resentment buried under decades of royal protocol. This isn't about romance anymore. It's about respect, legacy, and what Anne sees as Camilla's long pattern of pushing others aside to get what she wants. One royal aide summed it up bluntly: Camilla married Andrew, then Charles, then war. A crown that was never meant for her. Anne never forgot any of it. And this time, the public isn't turning away, they're paying attention, and they're choosing sides. Outside the palace walls, a wave is building, one that's sweeping. Across the UK, while Camilla's image is unraveling, Kate Middleton's rise is undeniable. Despite facing her own health struggles, Kate has captured the nation's heart with her resilience, grace, and unwavering sense of duty. She doesn't shout, she doesn't defend, she simply carries on, her strength speaking louder than words. Recent polls show a massive approval gap between Kate and Camilla. When asked who represents the future of the monarchy, over 80% chose Kate on social media. Posts about Camilla are met with skepticism, while posts about Kate, especially with her children, go viral within minutes. The media murals, editorials, headlines has made one truth clear. The crown's image is no longer carried by tradition. It's carried by character, and in this contrast, Anne's message becomes even more powerful. Anne doesn't just support Kate as family, she sees her as the future queen the country deserves, someone who embodies the dignity of Queen Elizabeth, the compassion of Diana, and the discipline Anne herself was raised with. Anne reportedly told a close friend, "If there is a North Star left in this institution, it's Catherine, not Camilla." Even King Charles has taken note. Though still loyal to Camilla, he's quietly approved a plan for Kate and William to take more central roles in future engagements. A move palace watchers believe signals a shift in public positioning. The monarchy isn't crumbling, it's transforming. And at the heart of that transformation is a rebalancing of power, one that shifts away from Camilla, who fought her way into the crown, and toward Kate, the woman the public has embraced. As a queen-in-waiting, but even as the world chooses its favorite. One question lingers. Will Anne remain silent, or will she go public? Princess Anne has never been one for drama. She's never written a memoir, never sat for an Oprah-style interview. But now, with so many royal truths cracking open and Camilla's legacy under fire, Insiders suggest that Anne might be preparing to do the unthinkable speak publicly. For decades, Anne has been the monarchy's hardest worker, its most loyal soldier. She kept her head down, her duty high. But now, she sees that silence no longer protects the crown, corrodes it. Sources say Anne has been approached for a documentary or even a memoir, one that would outline her experiences, not just as the Queen's daughter, but as a witness to the monarchy's most painful transformations, central to which would be Camilla's story, the one the palace never wanted told. "She's thinking about it," said one longtime courtier. "Not for revenge, for truth." Anne has watched the institution bend, hide, and twist to accommodate Camilla, from title negotiations to buried archives to backroom promises. And now, with the monarchy once again facing a crossroads, Anne may no longer be willing to bite her tongue. Charles knows this. So does William, and so does Camilla. The fear isn't just about what Anne might say, it's about how much she's already seen, because if Princess Anne goes public, whether in one interview, one book, or one unscripted moment, it could redefine royal history. No spin, no softening, just one of the most respected royals of her generation, finally speaking without filters. If that day comes, the crown may never be the same again. Behind every carefully controlled monarchy lies a storm, and this one Princess Anne's storm has only just begun. The truth is out, but the question now is, what comes next? If you found this story as revealing as we did, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more royal revelations.